Hello and welcome to
Tifo IRL, our new channel. I'm Alex Stewart, I'm an analyst for Tifo Football.
I'm JJ Bull and I'm an analyst at Tifo, and we have been asked to come up with our Premier League team of the season.
The rules for the team of the season are fairly simple. We have to pick a manager in a style we like.
So we're only allowed one person per club.
Also, the manager's team can't have any players. So that's why there are some really, really good people who have been left out.
And we haven't seen each other's teams until right now.
If you like this sort of stuff, if you want to see more videos of this nature, then please do give our new channel, Tifo IRL, which is Tifo, but in real life, which is me standing here, a follow, a subscription. We'll be putting out loads and loads of good tactical videos for you, hopefully, to enjoy.
You can even like the video, especially if you do actually like the video. But yeah, let's get into our Premier League team of the season. I've had quite a bit of fun choosing my team. I had a team I was quite settled on, and then kept remembering more players and looking through more bits and pieces where I found others that I wanted to have in. It got quite complicated. I've overthought it, probably. I've also wondered what Alex has got in his team. I'm really interested to see what he has. There'll be a couple of players. I reckon he's probably going to have someone like Wilfred and Ndidi in there, and maybe someone like Jack Harrison. And this is some odd player from somewhere, like a West Brom defender, someone who looks really good statistically, and Alex likes.
Formation and manager. So as you can see, I've gone for a 4-3-3 here. But it's actually kind of going to be a little bit more like a 4-4, 4-1-4-1. And the clue potentially to who my manager is this slightly garish t-shirt. So my manager is Marcelo Bielsa. There's a number of reasons for this. It's partly because I really, really like the style of football that Leeds play. They've had a very strong record against top 6 teams. They've beaten my team, Southampton, home and away this season. Also, Bielsa is kind of associated with a bit of a drop-off towards the end of seasons as teams tire and so on. Leeds haven't had this. They're actually really, really high up in the form table at the moment. Bielsa has kind of ever so slightly tempered that hyper-aggressive pressing style, and Leeds have just been great. Now, unfortunately, that means there are no Leeds players in the team of the season. It is worth pointing out that I really like Luke Ayling. I think Rafinha's had a great season, Jack Harrison as well, obviously Bamford up front. So by picking Bielsa, I've ruled out a lot of other good players, but he's the guy I want in my dugout, and he's going to sort of pace backwards and forwards like this, but I'll leave him sitting on his little water box, ice box, that's what it is, isn't it? He'll be there. So the way the team's going to play, if it's a Bielsa style team, going to have a lot of aggressive width coming from the fullbacks. I want my wide players to be able to push up, but also tuck inside to offer goal scoring and shooting opportunities. This defensive midfielder is going to need to drop back, take the ball off the centre backs at times and play these kind of long passes. But I want my defensive midfielder to be able to carry the ball forwards, dribble it well. Central midfielders, I expect them to be getting forwards. I want midfielders that can be a presence in the box and contribute with goal scoring. But I also want solidity, I want decent pressers, and I want creativity. In short, I want it all. But I think with this team of the season, I've been able to hit most of those markers.
And I have gone for Graham Potter, because the way I want to play with the players I have chosen, it's a bit wild. So I need someone who can coach that, someone who can play lovely passing football, the way the game should be played. Also put in a bit of a press, have a very fluid formation where players move positions, and you'll see why that's very important at some point, because some of this doesn't make any sense. But yeah, the other thing with Graham Potter is that although Brighton kind of narrowly avoided getting relegated, their XG has them, I think they're like above Manchester United this season. And you think of the players that Brighton have, and Potter's managed to get so much out of them that they could, and they scored their goals, be somewhere in the top 8, top 7. Like he's done an amazing job there, and I have no doubts whatsoever he'll be in a top job quite soon. And that's why he's not my manager of the season overall, but for the way my team is being constructed, There was no choice but Graham Potter, though Sean Dyche has done quite well with what he's got. First position, very important, the goalkeeper. I've gone for Emiliano Martinez of Aston Villa, who I think is just a really, really solid goalkeeper. Arsenal might have made a mistake getting rid of him. He makes amazing saves, he's reliable, he's good at taking crosses out the air, everything you want a goalkeeper to do. And I would say a team is only really as good as their goalkeeper. And Aston Villa are sort of mid-table-ish, so maybe that's how good Martinez is. In the same way though, like a team's as good as the goalkeeper, I would say like a band is only as good as their drummer. It's a similar thing. You have to have that person behind you that's giving you the level you need to get. And if you think about, I know that bands like The Who, Who wouldn't be The Who without Keith Moon, for example, and the Strokes wouldn't be as good as their goalkeeper, or their drummer was quite good, I suppose, that's how you look at it. But that's why Martinez is my goalkeeper. And now you need a defence in front of him. And the shape I'm going to play under Graham Potter is a 4-2-3-1. Now, we'll go through this one by one. Stewart Dallas. You have to have someone from Leeds in this team, because obviously Bielsa is not the manager, and he would be one of the managers of the season. Stewart Dallas I can't tell if he's really, really good or not. He plays for Northern Ireland, which you don't really associate with the best players in the world. He doesn't do anything spectacular, yet he's ended up with a heap of goals this season. He's played at left back, right back, centre midfield, right wing, and he's going to give us lots of options as we move up the pitch. You know, he can overlap on the right, very important. He can also swap wings when the left back is injured if he wants to. He can go into midfield and like an inverted wing back in former midfield. Really versatile player, but he's been ever present for Leeds this season, or at recording anyway. He's played every single game, and probably their most important player, I would say, of the entire season. Perhaps not their best, but most important. Now, one of our centre-backs is Wesley Fofana, who I absolutely love. I think he's one of the best young centre-backs I've ever seen. It reminds me a lot of Virgil van Dijk, the way he plays. I saw him play at Celtic when he was slightly younger, before I was moved to Southampton, and you could see something in Van Dijk then. You just go, oh, that's it, that's the player. It's just, everything is done really well. Decisions are made, the right decisions are made. He's strong, he's quick, he reads the game really well, he's aggressive when he needs to be, he gets tight when he needs to, he gives them space when he needs to, he can pass out from the back. Just a really, really solid player. You could argue maybe that Johnny Evans at Leicester would be perhaps a better choice because he's more experienced than their captain, and you look at how well Leicester have done this season, especially at not conceding so many goals. And yeah, I was kind of torn between Evans or Fofana, but part of my reasoning for this is that I'm picking some players that I like watching, not just because they're the best ones, and I love watching Fofana. If I've got to choose between Evans or Fofana, like if I'm a team and I'm buying a player, I'm buying Fofana, and that's why he's in. Next to Fofana, this is where I start to lose credibility, is Kieran Tierney, who is a left back. He can play at left centre back. He does it for Arsenal in a 3. He does it for Scotland in a 3 as a left-sided centre back. But he's a left back or a left wing back. He can do those things. He has played as part of a 2 at Celtic, so I have seen him play the position, so I know he can do it, and that's how I'm justifying him getting into my team, even though, as you said, I lose credibility with it. But he will be able to make these overlapping runs that I want him to make to attack. He's also, one of the things that Tierney does that maybe doesn't get noticed so much, is he makes loads of underlapping runs. It sounds very simple, but he's able to drive with the ball and get up to these sort of attacking positions, and he affects play. He's not just there doing nothing. He scored a few goals in his time, a couple for Arsenal this season, I think. Also just a leader. He was captain at Celtic when he was young. He's different to every single Arsenal player that they have. And yeah, I mean, you'd say Saka is probably a good option from Arsenal, but I'm going to go with Tierney because he has to play at centre-back, and that's why he's there. And then the left-back is Aaron Cresswell. I'm not sure anyone might have predicted that one, but his set-piece delivery is unbelievable. And when West Ham were flying high earlier in the season and midway through the season, one of the big reasons for it was Cresswell's delivery, especially from set-pieces. He can also play as a left centre-back. So what you have is when Tierney's going forward, Cresswell's going to come in here. This is a made-up team, so it's not ever going to be a real thing. But Cresswell can cover for him here, you see, so I can form a 3 somehow with Cresswell coming in and allow Tierney to play however he wants. They could even swap round if they like, but I think Tierney's going to be better as a left centre-back. But yeah, Cresswell's going to be there. I think it's very important to have someone who's excellent at set-piece delivery, especially with the left foot, because there are 2 sides to a football pitch.
So here's my back 4, well, back 5 actually, because I've got a goalkeeper in as well. And the first choice is my goalkeeper. It's Alphonse Areola of Fulham. Reason for this is basically shot stopping. Depending on which stats provider you use, Areola has saved between 6 and 8 goals more than he would have been expected to based on the quality of the shots. He's also 4th in the Premier League for successfully stopping crosses out of players who played more than 5 or 6 games. It's difficult to, it feels odd to pick a goalkeeper for a side that's been relegated. But I think it's fair to say that Fulham would have been in a lot more trouble if they hadn't had Areola in goal. He's got that kind of calm presence, his distribution is reasonable, and he's a good platform for the rest of the team to play off. So my back 4, I'm going to start with the right back here, and it's Reece James of Chelsea. Obviously that means that Kante, Mount miss out, but the reason I've picked James is a combination of factors. So statistically, his output has dropped off a little bit under Tuchel because he's not asked to be quite so aggressive as he was under Lampard in terms of getting forwards, delivering crosses from these sorts of dangerous areas. But at the same time, he still compares really, really well with other fullbacks in Europe. So if you look at Europe's top 5 leagues and compare his stats across the last 365 days, the only thing that he's not in the sort of top 65, 70% for are goals, assists and clearances. Otherwise, you would be hard-pressed to find a better rounded fullback. He can also drop into the sort of right-sided centre-back role, which gives our team a nice kind of asymmetry, which is something that Leeds under Bielsa do quite a lot. Tuchel's used him in this role in the last couple of games against Leicester to combat Vardy's pace. So basically he offers everything. He can go forwards and cross dangerously, defensively solid, robust, good clearances, good blocks. That's my right back. On the left-hand side, I have gone for Luke Shaw. I think Luke Shaw has probably had his best season for Manchester United. If you look at how Manchester United create as a squad, Luke Shaw is basically in the top 3 for everything. No one gets the ball into the penalty area with crosses more than Luke Shaw does. In terms of expected assists, he's second. In terms of shot creating actions, he's second. Progressive passes into the penalty area. It's basically him, Fernandes and Rashford are the guys who make Manchester United tick. Obviously, Bruno Fernandes has had an incredible season and very difficult to leave him out. But in terms of the balance of this side, what I want from my fullback is somebody who can get forwards on an overlap, who can create through crosses, cutbacks, pullbacks, also through through balls. But I also want somebody who's astute enough to tuck into central midfield and bulk that out if that's required. And again, I want somebody where if my right back is canted all the way up here, that my back 3 can kind of fill out with the left back tucking inside. And Luke Shaw has shown playing for Manchester United that he can do all of this. I don't think there is a better rounded left back in the Premier League this season. And I think he should probably be England's starting choice as well. He also fits really neatly into the way I want to play. So that is Luke Shaw, my left back. Centre-backs now. Now, centre-backs are really difficult to assess statistically. There's a variety of reasons for this, and defensive shape, the way the coach wants the team as a whole to play. Sometimes even things as simple as having a back 3 versus a back 2 means that you're sharing out defensive numbers like blocks and clearances and stuff across more players. So it's harder to get high per 90 metrics for that. My left-sided centre-back, James Tarkowski, who's at Burnley, does stand out statistically though. He has made the 4th most clearances by volume in the Premier League. He's won the 3rd most headers by volume. He's also 6th by percentage success rate. He wins 75+% of his headers, which is really good. And he's also the player who is most successful in the Premier League for applying pressure. What that means is that 42% of the time after Tarkowski presses, Burnley win the ball back within 5 seconds, which is hugely impressive and a really, really good measure of his proactivity as a defender. So he's going to push up, he's going to win the ball in the air, he's going to apply pressure, he's going to be defensively proactive in a way that allows my team to play on the front foot a little bit, pushing up as much as possible. And this dominance in the air as well gives us a really good foundation if teams start playing long against us because we're pressing really high, which obviously we're going to do. Alongside him is Leicester City's Wesley Fofana. Wesley Fofana does not stand out massively by any kind of metrics, although he is 10th in the Premier League for progressive distance carried. So basically, when he dribbles with the ball forwards, he gets a long way up the pitch. I've kind of picked him really because I like him. I think, in the cup final, he showed fantastic defensive acumen. He reads the game really well. He's hugely athletic. He's a committed defender. He makes blocks. He throws himself in front of things. And then when he gets the ball, he can make these little sallies up the pitch, which will relieve pressure on the side, will allow us to break the first line of the opposition press. I think it's also worth remembering that Fofana is only 20, 21 years old. This is a player who is in his first season in the Premier League. He formed a very good defensive unit back at Saint Etienne, and then came over here and has basically taken to the Premier League like a duck to water. It's hugely impressive. He's been asked to play in a back three and a back two, which shows versatility. And he's working with a smart coach under Brendan Rodgers. So I think everything about his game is going to improve. But what I particularly like is that you have this nice balance here between one centre-back who's going to be really dynamic, who's going to carry the ball, who's going to be able to make little passes that, move the ball forwards. And then you've got another one here who's going to come forward and win headers, apply pressure, and probably sit slightly further back, but isn't a bad passer either. So hopefully there, within a back four, we've got a decent balance. All the bases are covered. We've got creativity, we've got aggression and pace. We've got someone that can bring the ball out. We've got someone that can win headers. And behind all of that, a goalkeeper who doesn't concede many shots. On to my midfield. Midfield is anchored here by Brighton and Hove Albion's Yves Bissouma. Now, we've got Wesley Fofana in defence already, so we can't have Wilfred Ndidi. If you can't have Wilfred Ndidi, then Bissouma is not the next best thing, but defensively will cover a lot of the same sort of ground and also adds more. So he's second for tackles won by volume in the Premier League. He's third for tackles attempted overall. He's sixth for interceptions. It's worth pointing out that Højbjerg at Spurs is actually first for tackles in both of those. So Bissouma will do a lot of covering. He'll do a lot of defensive work. He'll win the ball an awful lot, but he also has something else really exciting, which is his ability to carry the ball. Now, he doesn't do it a huge amount, but when he does, he's going to break forwards and dribble. He's press resistant. That means that when the opposition are coming onto us and trying to pin us back here in this area, Bissouma is somebody who can play his way out of trouble. He's been exceptional in terms of facilitating Brighton's transition game. Obviously, they've had a slightly weird season where they've massively underachieved versus their expected goals. And their expected goals against. They should have had a better season basically under Graham Potter, but Bissouma has been key to them. And I think he's exactly the kind of midfielder that I would want in this system. He's going to be able to drop off and screen and win the ball, but he also, once we're in transition, he can pass it up to these guys or he can carry the ball himself. So he's just a very, very strong central cog that everything else can work around. Everything else being here on the right-hand side, West Ham's Thomas Souček. Souček has had a hugely impressive transition into the Premier League. There's really nothing not to like about him. So he's won the most aerials. He's West Ham's joint top goal scorer with Mikel Antonio at the moment. 10 goals for what looks like a kind of slightly lumpy central midfielder is pretty impressive. And obviously that's testament to his ability in the air. He gets forwards into the box. He's also fantastic defensively. So, particularly on set pieces and stuff, having somebody of his height in this area is going to be extremely helpful. The other thing with Souček is that he's kind of a throwback to a proper old school box-to-box midfielder. So when he sits alongside Declan Rice in that West Ham double pivot, Rice is there to pass the ball, to add a bit of progression, sometimes with his carrying as well. And he does that very ably. I mean, Rice would be a good anchor for this team too. Souček's the guy who just gets up and down and, constantly moving, constantly sniffing out where the ball is. If the ball's moving forwards, he'll break up here. He'll be around the edge of the box. There's, long shooting opportunities, getting into the box for crosses. If the ball's down the other end of the pitch, Souček will be here looking to win tackles and then break forwards in transition or coming right back to defend crosses and so on. So just a fantastic all-round midfielder who will contribute at both ends of the pitch, weigh in with goals. The other midfielder, kind of obviously, is Kevin De Bruyne. If you can't have Bruno Fernandes because you've got Luke Shaw, you have to have Kevin De Bruyne. And personally, for me, you have to have Kevin De Bruyne anyway. Obviously, Manchester City have got a lot of great players, so Ruben Diaz would have been a good shout for centre-back. Cancelo at right-back has been really impressive. Phil Foden's been great. Riyad Mahrez has been great. The whole team has been great. But De Bruyne is statistically phenomenal. So in the Premier League this season, he's second for expected assists in terms of key passes into the penalty area, the number of assists he's registered. He's basically a top 3 player for pretty much every attacking metric except for goals. He also will just add that extra spark of something. He'll be able to cut across with this really dynamic midfield behind. He can play through the right-hand side, come up here and deliver these passes through the sort of the half-space crosses that will be particularly effective. He can push up into this area. He's shown his versatility this season under Pep Guardiola, where he's played as a false 9 quite a lot of the time. And that means he can get forwards. His pressing game is fantastic. But more than anything, I think in terms of just the sheer quality and the range of his passing, there isn't anybody in the Premier League that can duplicate that. So if you want everything to tick, you need Kevin De Bruyne to play all of that stuff. Now, I think as well, to remind you that we are playing this Marcelo Bielsa style of football, one of the things that's underappreciated about De Bruyne is just how athletic he is. And so we've seen that in the way that he's pressed a lot this season. But he will also be back here making tackles. He gets up and down, he keeps up with the play. So although Souček might seem like a more kind of orthodox box-to-box midfielder, in these two together, you've actually got a really complementary pair of midfielders who will both cover a lot of ground, win the ball back, make interceptions, make tackles, and it gives a real kind of dynamism in this midfield area. So that's my midfield 3, Basuma of Brighton, Souček of West Ham, and De Bruyne of Manchester City.
This is my midfield for my amazing team that I have picked. Now, Alan plays for Everton, and I love this guy. I think he's great. One of the signings of the season. It turns out I'm actually a lot more defensive-minded when building a team than I thought I was. And so I have Alan, who can sit as a 6, which is very important, especially because I'm going to have Dallas, Tierney and Cresswell getting up the top. So you need at least one other person helping Fofana in defence. So maybe I'm not very defensive. Maybe I'm nuts. So Alan for Everton here had a few injury problems this season. I think it's been really important to how they play. It's a great signing, like I said. Just a really good, solid player. Great midfielder, can pass, can dribble, can carry the ball, wins the ball back a lot. Love him. And in Chelsea, Having N'Golo Kante means I can't have Mason Mount, who I've loved this season. I think he does really cool things with the ball. Like his first touch is unbelievable. Some of the things he does with the ball are just great, and they seem very easy to him. But Kante is so good that I think often kind of underestimate how good he is. Like of all the players in the Premier League, he's probably the most obvious one that can play in any team in the entire world. That he go to Real, Barca. He's just amazing, and he's not this this defensive creature that we think of him as. Like he's a real box-to-box player. He can attack well. He's good in the ball. He makes the right decisions. He can pass the ball out to your wingers, but also he'll win the ball back high up the pitch. And if we're playing a high press, which we're gonna, you want someone like that behind. But also he counts for basically about 8 players because he does so much off the ball, buzzing about winning it. Plays best in a 2, as we see at Chelsea this season and as we've seen at Leicester before. So it suits the formation perfectly. He's going to win the ball back a lot and do all these sorts of runs up and down the pitch that I want him to make. I do regret not having Mount in there, but you could call him like N'Golo Mount we'll have, or Mason Kante. Doesn't work. We'll have Kante. We'll stick with Kante in our double pivot here. That's what we're doing. And yeah, I want to see who Alex has got. How does this interact with my defence? So one of the things I think we could do is that Kante is going to play on the left side of this, you see, and Alan's going to be the 6 in the middle. And I think Dallas is going to come inside quite a lot as a centre midfielder. And then you've got Fofana and maybe Tierney behind. Maybe just Fofana as like a weird sweeper. Haven't quite worked this one out yet. We're going to see how it works in training, see how that goes. But yeah, this is my thing, because definitely Cresswell's going to have to go high up the pitch as a left back or attacking winger. But this is one option we've got with my hypothetical team, which isn't, again, a real team.
This is a lot more logical than I thought it would be.
But this is my forwards in my. Look at this team. It's going to be really special if it were real. Now, I'm going to start and explain why I've gone for these players here. Salah has to go in because he scored an insane amount of goals. I think it's 22 goals at the time we record on this. So he's going for the golden boot. Doesn't feel like he's been that good this season, which is kind of weird. It doesn't really feel like he's been that good. I mean, Liverpool haven't been that good this season. But yet Salah's still turning up with 22 goals and also knows how to play the kind of pressing game I would like to play. And that Graham Potter's good at coaching, so he's going to be great there. He can play wide right as well. Doesn't have to come inside to the half spaces to attack these areas. He can stay wide, a bit like Riyad Mahrez at Man City. Maybe not. It doesn't maybe suit him properly because he is essentially a striker played out in half space by Liverpool. But yeah, I have to have Salah. I really want to have Alan St-Maximin in here because I love watching him. I have gone with the sensible route of choosing an actually good team full of players who pass to each other. Now we're going to go over here and go to Bruno Fernandes, who plays for Manchester United. You can't not have him in. Produces goals and assists every single game he plays. It's like a one-man team, basically. I mean, I haven't seen a player have so much impact on a team. I can't even think of another player off the top of my head just now who they just can't do without him. When he doesn't play, United are not the same team. And he'll have things like he tries passes that other players just won't try. Like things like his pass completion rate, I don't know this right now, but I'd imagine it's not that high because he attempts these passes that force the ball through and he makes things happen. So when he's there, stuff will happen. If you're against a team in a low block, Fernandes can play these sorts of balls that break down the team, or he'll have a shot from 20 yards, it takes a deflection and gets him the goal. He's also a leader, and I think this is something that reflects through a lot of my picks here, because you've got Fernandes, who is a captain, basically. You've got Kante, well, he's not a leader, but he inspires others the way he plays. You've got Alan, who is the same sort of thing. He's really a leader on the pitch. Stuart Dallas, I think he's literally the captain of Leeds. Fofana is 100% going to be a captain for someone at some point in the future. Kieran Tierney is a captain. Aaron Cresswell wears captain's armband. So obviously, I think the mental part of the game is very important in my team. This is a determined group of individuals who could quite easily turn over a team. They won't say no. They won't give up. They won't accept defeat. They will push for all of the goals in the land of football. Now I'm going to move on to my favourite player, maybe one of my favourite players in the entire world. Genuinely, I think Phil Foden is outstanding. He is one of the best young players I have ever seen in the world, ever. He's one of these players that when you watch him do things with the ball, you go like, whoa. Or it makes you know those players where something happens and you're sitting down, but you involuntarily go, whoa, like that, because it's really cool, the things he's doing. His first touch, there were a few players with a better first touch than him. I've described him in the past on podcasts as being a bit like a video game player. So when you give him the ball, there is no doubt in your mind that he's going to kill it dead instantly. It's not like it's going to bounce off him or it won't go where he wants. The ball will go exactly where he wants to off his first touch. And then he'll do a little trick only when he needs to go past someone. His passing, his vision, decision making, that's what he's best at. Everything he does is the right choice. And he's playing wide left for City this year. He's also played as an 8, one of the free 8s in Guardiola's team, so he can move into these positions here. He can hug the wide left if he needs to. He can come into the half space and attack here. He can play as a false 9. He can come onto the right wing if he needs. Just lots of options, lots of player rotations I want in this team, apart from Fernandes, who needs to stay in the middle all of the time, but everyone else can rotate around. And yeah, I just love Phil Foden. He has to come into the team. Means you can't put Ilkay Gundogan in, who's probably been City's most important player this season. Also means you can't put in Ruben Dias, who is probably one of the players of the season. So it's been a tough choice, but that's why Foden's in, not the other lads. And finally, I mean, you can't not have Harry Kane in your team, can you? Top scorer in the league, playing for a Spurs team who isn't very good. Can drop into these spaces here and let other people go into his striker position because he likes to do that, he likes to drop deep. And from here, his passing range is exceptional. There's some assists and like long balls he's played this season that have produced chances out of almost nothing. He's like, he's got the body of Alan Shearer and the mind of Teddy Sheringham and the right boot of David Beckham, but also of Harry Kane, all in one player, squished up like that. And there's lots of options I've got with this team here. I think I'm going to bet right now that Alex has got Harry Kane, right? He's got Harry Kane, yeah, see? So well, let's look at how this team can play in attack, even though it's a made-up team. So obviously we're going to get Kane, like I said, can move around in the different spaces and drop behind someone. Fernandes is a 10, but really I would say he's a second striker. So when you press, you can press as a 4-4-2 out of possession, which is quite, it's sort of a thing that's happened quite a lot in the Premier League this season. And it means that you show play wide from whoever you're playing against. The play's always going to have to go wide around this block at the front. And then you've got Salah pressing, you're going to have Dallas who can go either side, you've got Allen in behind there. No one's getting past that first line of press, basically. Then the other side, you've got Kante with Foden, Kane, Cresswell, not getting past it. Alex's team getting nowhere near it. In attack, we can have Fernandes and Kane kind of dovetailing with each other. They can do whatever they want. They're both very clever players. They're going to be able to do that. Like we said, Foden can come in amongst it. Probably you want them attacking the half spaces here where you can make the sort of passes that you want. Like I like these sort of passes where it's going to slip someone in. Or you can, you know, just move them into... Foden can play anywhere around this whole area. He really is very good. If you haven't seen Foden play, try and watch Foden play. Now, Mo Salah, like we say, he's going to be probably mostly in the half space here, attacking these sorts of bits here. So you get Kane floating about, attacking near post, back post, Foden in here as well. Stewart Dallas is going to... In fact, let's keep Salah out here for now, so we can allow Dallas to come and attack, because he had a couple of good games doing this. There's one against Man City, where I think he played wide right, but he was always attacking central space, making really well-timed runs to do it. Aaron Cresswell's given us our width on the left when we go forward, supported by Kieran Tierney, who comes up here. N'Golo Kante is going to help out with any loose balls that come in here. Alan's doing the same. And as you can see, it's rather an attacking side. But that's why Martinez is so good, because as we discussed earlier, not only is he good at killing men, he's also good at stopping goals going in, or shots going in. You can't stop a goal. That makes no sense. But yeah. Kind of nuts, very attacking, but this is why I mean, all the players I think make sense within my Graham Potter hypothetical nonsense dream team, which seems to be quite heavily weighted towards the left right now. But now it's balanced again, you see. And then we're going to press high, we're going to win the game, win all of the points, all of the goals, and all of the hearts.
Lastly, my forward line. We'll start over here on the left-hand side with Jack Grealish. I don't think you can leave Jack Grealish out of a Premier League team of the season. He is top in the league for goal-creating actions per 90 and shot-creating actions per 90. That means either of the two actions that immediately precede a goal or a shot has got Jack Grealish involved. No one has drawn more fouls than Jack Grealish. No one has made more progressive runs, that's runs that carry the ball forwards by 5 yards or into the penalty area, than Jack Grealish. I think you can also see that with Aston Villa, who've had a fantastic season under Dean Smith, the absence of Grealish really, really hits them hard. I mean, John McGinn offers a lot going forwards and has been impressive, but Grealish is someone who carries that team. And I think that's also something that I really like about him. There is a work ethic there. There's a willingness to carry the ball forwards, even though he knows he's going to get hacked down. And he also has end product. I think as well, an underrated quality, particularly by me at times, is that Grealish is fun. Grealish is the sort of player who you want to watch play football. And, although I think this team has got a lot of fun in it, he's certainly the person that would be able to give the ball to and who will just do stuff that other people can't do. In terms of how he fits into the system, slightly unorthodox maybe. I mean, he has played as a central midfielder. He did that in the Championship. He can kind of cut across and play a lot in here. So we know that he's someone who's mobile and versatile. I think under a really high pressing system, we've not particularly seen that, and Villa are, they're less passive than they were last season, but they're still not a massively pressing side. So there'll be some adaptation there. At the same time, if you want somebody who's going to do fun stuff with the ball, it has to be Jack Grealish. And I think that with, if we've got De Bruyne here sitting off and pulling the strings, Jack Grealish cutting inside, and Luke Shaw making these overlapping runs, that is a very, very dangerous left-hand side. That's it's going to rival anybody's. On the right-hand side, we've got Mohamed Salah from Liverpool. I was very tempted to put Trent Alexander-Arnold in as a right midfielder. I think Trent Alexander-Arnold would work really well as a right midfielder. And in terms of his creative stats, he's top 97, 98% of any fullback in Europe's top 5 leagues. But even though it's a Bielsa team, slightly unorthodox, Trent Alexander-Arnold hasn't played as a right midfielder all season, and therefore it would be cheating. And I can't do that in good conscience. So, Mo Salah. I think Mo Salah, and this will be something that we apply to my other striker here, has impressed, particularly as his team have stuttered. So he is, joint top goal scorer in the Premier League this season. He's also top for expected goals. He's top for expected goals per 90. And even though Liverpool have struggled to be as consistent as they were in those 2 extremely dominant seasons when they won the Premier League and the European Cup, Salah has kind of chugged away and continued to do Salah things fantastically well. Trent Alexander-Arnold has had a really good last kind of 10 or 15 games, but prior to that, largely because of these injury issues in other parts of the team, he's not been getting forward to support as much. Salah has had to do a lot more on his own this season, and the fact that he has been able to score, as we're recording this, 22 goals, and top the XG table and top the XG per 90 table just shows that he's shouldered that goal-scoring burden for Liverpool absolutely phenomenally. Clearly, he's a very good presser of the ball because he's playing for a Jurgen Klopp side, so I've got no issues about how he's going to fit into the system. He's not used to playing quite so deep, so I think we'd have to probably have a bit more of a asymmetrical kind of 4-1-4-1 here, but with Reece James pushing up to cover and Souček on this side, who can do that ably, I don't really have any concerns about how Salah would fit into this team. And obviously these runs inside here, we're going to get a lot of goals that way. And that brings us to our centre forward, Harry Kane. Again, I don't think you can have a Premier League team of the season without Harry Kane. There are different strikers who've really impressed, of different profiles. I particularly like Dominic Calvert-Lewin this season. But the simple fact is that in a pretty stuttering Spurs side, playing surprisingly negative football, well, surprisingly, under Jose Mourinho, Kane has still managed to score the most goals and register the most assists in the Premier League, which is a phenomenal achievement, because Spurs have not really been particularly good at getting the ball forwards to him. So obviously he's been dropping off a lot. His ability to play passes in for these two cutting inside, that's going to be very, very exciting, creating almost like a midfield diamond. But of course, he will also get forwards. He takes a lot of shots. His volume is good, and he takes shots from all around. So some of them will be longer, but he's not afraid to get up into the box. I think, I would like to see him a little bit more in the box for England than in this sort of area, because I think he offers so much in that space, and also it puts less of an onus on the other players getting forwards and having to fill in and create those opportunities. But you can't argue with his ability to create from this position. There's a pretty decent argument that says that not only is Kane the best number 9 in the Premier League at the moment, he's also one of the best number 10s. So that concludes my team of the season. I think this is a good team, otherwise I wouldn't have picked it. But I also think that under this manager, Bielsa, this is a team that could play a style of football which is fun and exciting and successful. So pretty much everyone in this team, probably apart from Harry Kane, is a good aggressive presser of the ball. Grealish doesn't press that much, but I'm sure we could encourage it. Kane's going to drop off here, and we can have these players running inside. De Bruyne is going to be pushing up as well, so we can almost make a kind of really attacking front four here at times. With Basuma, we've got a really stable base. Souček as well will be able to do that, and either one of them can drop back into that sort of Calvin Phillips role for Leeds United, be the person who takes the ball and moves it up the pitch. Both of our fullbacks can be very aggressive and get forwards, but also at the same time, both of them we'll do it with Reece James. Both of them are comfortable dropping back into a wide centre-back position and giving that defensive solidity and build-up. And we can start to see here the sort of, he hasn't actually used it all that much, but a kind of a version of the 3-3-1-3 shape that Bielsa likes.
How many of them got injured this year?
Oh yeah, well, yeah, there's some injury problems there. Allen's got injured a lot. Kieran Tierney's been injured a lot. Foden has only played about 15 starts. He's only had 15 starts in the league or something this season. But that's not through injury, that's for rotation. Kane has an ankle that can turn over at any point and rule him out for a few months. They don't have subs, we weren't allowed to put subs in, you see. So that's one thing.
Okay, let's say you did have subs.
If I had subs,
3 subs.
oh God, but I have to have him at other clubs. Alan St. Maximin, you gotta have him. He's great fun. Who else even plays? Who's in the league that I like? Pedro Neto at Wolves. Love watching him. He's a really, really tidy player. I can play all along the front as a striker as well, actually. He can play as a 10, 7 or 11 or a 9. And I've got one more sub, don't I? It's 3 subs. Who else is left in the league that I haven't talked about? Can't have anyone from Brighton. Burnley. Chris Wood. We'll put Chris Wood in.
Okay, subs. I mean, I want a defensive sub, and I think I would pick Luca Digne at left back. I've not picked any Everton players. He's probably contributed in an attacking sense as much as anyone in that position this season. Everton have been a bit of an up and down side, but Digne has been very, very consistent. So yeah, he could sub in there, and also, we could go to a back three if there was some sort of injury. Shaw could play as a left-sided centre-back and Digne can play as a wing-back. So it gives us a little bit of balance. Midfield sub, my only nod so far to the team that I support, Southampton, is the colours of the shirts, but I would pick James Ward-Prowse. I think in terms of creative output, he's carried Southampton this season. His set-piece ability is incomparable in the league. He's so good in terms of his delivery. And I think he actually fits this system really well as one of these central midfielders. He's a good presser of the ball. He's a bit niggly. He'll commit, tactical fouls. His range of passing is decent. He's hard-working, and he's used to playing in a midfield too. So he'll work really hard to compensate if in this sort of area, if Salah is a little too far forwards. I think Ward-Prowse would work well there. In terms of a striker or an attacking player, Pedro Neto at Wolves. I think, he's been fun this season. I've not picked a Wolves player otherwise. I think in terms of ball carrying, he's exciting. He can play either side. He could probably play through the middle as a false nine as well. And he just adds a little bit of a kind of sparkle. It's hard to find an attacking player who doesn't play for a side that we've already picked someone from. But yeah, I'd say Pedro Neto. I'm not going to accept that there's any weaknesses, obviously. I think there's a possibility that we could be too aggressive defensively. So if everyone kind of pushes up, and if Fofana is carrying the ball forwards and we're trying to commit too many people here, you're going to possibly be left with a situation where the opposition can counter quite successfully. Tarkowski will be isolated. One of the things that Areola is not so good at doing is coming out of his box and kind of dominating this space behind a high defensive line. Having said that, Fofana is very quick, Bissouma is very quick, so I'd like to think that we can recover reasonably well here. James, likewise, and Shaw. So I think even if we get turned over, we should be able to fall back into a relatively good defensive possession. But yeah, I'd say that's a possible weakness.
The biggest weaknesses in my team are these areas here and over here. A clear weakness is going to be Stuart Dallas at right back because he's not a right back, and I've sort of cheated there doing that. Kieran Tierney is a good centre back, but he's not Rio Ferdinand. So you're going to find some holes in behind there. Kanté and Allen, although they are good, Kanté especially is good at bringing the ball out from the back in possession, so he's good at bringing it with him and then releasing the ball, but he's not going to play a 60-yard ball out from the back. And in fact, I don't really have a player who can play that early ball out, so there's a good chance if you press my team high up the pitch, they're going to have to make these really, really, really quick interchanges, quick one-touch passes to get out of the press. Otherwise, they're going to just have to clear it. Because Fofana is good at playing balls out from the back, but he's not as good as Van Dijk is, for example, at hitting these long diagonals out to your winger. But we can coach that, and we've got Graham Potter who's able to do that, so that's why we're sort of okay with that. Otherwise, weaknesses. I don't know, Salah covering for Dallas. The right side is the weak. Out of possession, the right side is the weaker one, because you can find Salah often not supporting the fullback. That happens sometimes. Otherwise, it's perfect. It's the best team we've ever seen. Yeah. Let's see this team. That's good.
Oh, I thought about doing that.
Grealish, yeah.
Yeah, Okay.
Areola, that's a good call.
Yeah, the cheekiness I'm referring to, as you probably know, is Kieran Tierney as a left-sided centre-back in a 2. Yeah, I get this. So Martinez obviously has been fantastic. Probably the only other Villa player that you consider. Ezri Konsa, maybe. Dallas Fofana, yes, okay, good. And he's, I can see how this works. So you can have Cresswell dropping into this left-sided thing to make a 3 with Dallas coming up and Salah tucking inside. That works really neatly. Foden as well here, and then Fernandes can drop out to this, left-hand side, which he quite likes to do. Cresswell can play really nice passes in from this kind of left half space. That'll give teams a problem defending. And Cresswell's played as a left-sided centre-back as well, so that works. Interesting that he's picked Alan, or Alan, I'm not sure how you say it properly. That's a very strong midfield double pivot. There's a lot of solidity there. Yeah, so the similarities, Kane, Fofana, and Salah. I think my team would win though.
I think my team's way better.
Why?
Right, so things like, obviously we share the Kane and Salah bit. I love Grealish, it's basically between Foden and Grealish, I'd say, at that position that was probably his thinking. Shaw, yeah. Shaw's been the best left back this season by a mile. He'd easily be first in the real team of the year. Tarkowski, I'm not sure about it. He is good, but he's not Kieran Tierney good at left back. I guess that makes sense. He's got 2 centre backs. Yeah, his is more defensively sound than mine. And Basuma, I really rate him as well. I think he'll play for a bigger, high up table club at some point soon. He's a lovely player. Souček, I'm not sure I'd say his name. West Ham. Really important player for them. I think he's one of their top scorers in the league this season. He's also a defensive midfielder. Like he can play the box to box, but he can also give him this kind of double pivot if he wants. A bit of defensive solidity. Yeah, and then he's gonna have maybe a box midfield. So a box with these 2 lads here, and then James has to come wide, Shaw. Salah inside. Yeah, it's a good team. Yeah. Tax the front 5, yeah. Yeah, I'll give it to them. Yeah, I like it. His manager, Bielsa. Yeah. I should have said that at the start. I knew it would be Bielsa. Obviously, my guess, Jack Harrison. I'm trying to think what the Leeds thing would be. I thought he might have gone for Potter, actually, now I think about it. But he didn't go for Potter, he went for Basuma, because he loves Basuma. I like it. It's a very Alex team. It's a solid team.
How do you think it's going to fare in the Tifo derby?
He's got Bielsa as manager, and he's going to have a lot of really quick attacks. A lot of space for De Bruyne to play in. Souček arriving from late. Set pieces even, you're going to have Souček, Tarkowski, Fofana. Basuma's quite tall, I think. So that's going to be important. Who do I have at set pieces? Kane as well, I've got.
How's the back line going to deal with the attack?
It's going to get absolutely done. It's going to get torn apart. Grealish against Dallas, I know who's winning that. Salah versus Cresswell and Tierney. But then there's room for Souček. Kante's going to stop him. Kane, good player. De Bruyne. It's got Allen and Kante to deal with. Shaw's going to, Dallas is going to be in all sorts of trouble. You can have Allen pulled out of position. He's going to pull Fernandes back to deal with that. Which leaves Kane. Salah is not going to do enough that I want him to. And Basuma's going to be on Kane. You've got James here wide. He might win this. Yeah, Alex might win this game. But I stand by my team.
How?
How would we win? I think the reason that he's gone for such a strong double pivot in central midfield is that he knows, particularly aerially, they're a bit soft in the centre. None of these guys are massively tall. And I think even if Cresswell is relatively conservative, Dallas is going to push up quite a lot. It would be fairly easy to isolate these guys. Salah's going to be able to attack this channel quite successfully, I think. Even if Kane drops off, you're going to have, well, there's going to be a bit of a gap, right? Because these guys will be playing really quite high and also fairly centrally, I'd imagine. And so we can exploit space here because I'll match him, or not match him, overman him in midfield. Because we'll have a 3v2 in midfield with Basuma able to link and drop off and nullify Fernandes. I think we can probably progress the ball through his team quite well. I'd also be thinking that Grealish coming inside and attacking Allen is going to be one where we get a lot of joy off that. Sure, we'll keep Dallas occupied. I mean, yeah, like it's a good side. It would be tough to break down, particularly coming through the centre, but I think we've got more pace and creativity in the wide areas. And I would be looking particularly for Soucek to push up and really attack Tierney in the air, because I think that's a complete mismatch there. If Kane drops off and drags Fofana with him a little bit, then there's plenty of room for Grealish to get in there. There's room for De Bruyne to get in there as well. And yeah, from a defensive perspective, I mean, obviously, Foden and Fernandes are really high quality attacking players, but the fact that we can tuck in and make a back three here, that James has the pace to aggressively defend this space, I think is promising. I can imagine Basuma getting slightly overmanned here if Kane drops off and Fernandes is playing in the 10 spot. So, you know, I'd maybe want Soucek back here to help out, or I'd ask Fofana to defend that space a little bit more aggressively. But Basuma is really, really good at winning the ball, and Kane would probably have to stay up anyway, because otherwise this space centrally between the lines would get very, very clustered. They could try and play that kind of, you know, Spurs, Pochettino, work it through style of football, but and sure against Salah is a good battle, and if Dallas is sort of underlapping here, then that's going to ask a bit of De Bruyne defensively, but De Bruyne is very capable in that way. So yeah, I think when they come forward, they'll be a threat for sure. But if we can win the ball back, which I'd hope in the air with Tarkowski or on the ground with Basuma and Fofana we can do, I would then look to transition us really quite wide, particularly on this left-hand side, have Soucek coming up and pinning these guys here. And then even if this, you know, even if you've got like a nice compact type 4 here, there's plenty of space around the sides for us to be able to create overlaps. And then it's all about crosses. It's going to be a pretty reductive style of football, but I think it's one that would be successful against this side as long as we can defend well.
How is your attack going to break down his
defense?
Yeah, formidable defense.
Well, I'll show you. Where's the weaknesses? The weaknesses you could say would be, oh, there's only 2 crossovers, isn't there? No, there's 3, Kane, Salah and Fofana. So I suppose I'm going to just overload them so they have to come back. No one's going to know where Dallas is going, so you get that. Grealish, he does defend, but he's like Salah, you know, he's not going to be as reliable. I've got Foden, so same sort of problem. James is a very good defender. Kane here. I think what's going to work for me is the rotation of positions. Salah, Kane, Foden, Dallas. Kante's going to stop them getting out. I mean, Soucek is not going to be able to get past Kanté. That is, Kanté's got this bit. This is his all day. Kanté owns this bit of the pitch. This is his. He's got that. Fernandes is going to make things happen because he does. He'll also win some dirty penalty somehow. And Kane will do that as well. And then score your set pieces. Salah's going to be in amongst it here against Tarkowski, Shaw, Dallas is there for the fun. He doesn't have to be there to win the game. Fofana versus Kane. Tough one. You're going to have Alan helping him out, dropping in. Cresswell. I want Tierney to underlap. This is my strange new thing I'm going to do. I'm going to have Foden out wide. Tierney's going to underlap. Cresswell's going to drop in. He won't see it coming. This is my theory. He won't see that tactic coming because it's stupid. And Tierney will be able to underlap here and get in amongst Soucek. Kanté can deal with this bit here. You get Foden out wide against James. James is going to be like, what? Tierney, he's a left back. Why is he there? I'll go in here. And then Foden's in. And then you get Fofana, who's very good, and he'll be able to deal with that. But Fernandes will find space in these 10 areas. We're going to try and draw in a mess of lines. And if you get Harry Kane doing Harry Kane, striking, scoring all the goals. If not, Salah. And then when they break, they're going to have all the freedom of this entire wing because I've got Mohamed Salah and Stewart Dallas defending that bit. Loads of goals to be had. And particularly if you consider that what I've tried to do here is a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, a 7v 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6. So as long as we don't lose the ball, we're fine. Exactly, and then if we score, we retreat into a more, maybe start with a high press, drop into a mid-block, and move my team around now because I don't want to have Kieran Tierney versus Salah and Kane. Didn't think this through really, did I? I overthought it and I underthought it. I did all the things.
Well, if it's a Leeds team or if it's a Bielsa team against a Potter team, then it's going to be like 4-3. And they'll probably have had better chances to score as well. 4-3 to me, obviously. Yeah, I think it would be a good game to watch. I think it would be fun. So that's our first proper IRL video on this channel, Tifo, but in real life. Hope you've enjoyed it.
As I said before, we've got so much we're going to do during the Euros especially, and we'd love to grow the channel as quickly as we can, because that's fun. So you can be part of that by helping subscribe, you can like the video.
I would be very interested to hear your thoughts on it. I'm sure it's the kind of thing that will divide opinions, so please leave lots of comments and tell me what you agree with, what you don't agree with, other suggestions, that kind of thing.
I suspect some of you might disagree with mine. If you're asking, which you're not, who would I want to hang out with the most?
I wasn't going to ask that.
Who would I want to hang out with out of these lads? I don't know. Stewart Dallas would probably be the most fun. I'll go with Stewart Dallas. I get the feeling that Bruno Fernandes would be really intense. He'd just be...
I thought Dallas would be nuts. He'd be...
No, he's just from, well, he's Northern Irish, isn't he? I'm from Scotland, so there's probably a sort of shared culture there almost. So I understand him. I think he'd be just a good time if we were to go to a bar, a public bar, for example. I think Stewart Dallas would be good fun. Martinez seems like a nice guy. He'd be good. I don't know, I could hear all about Jose Mourinho from Kane, that'd be fun. Yeah, Tierney, he'd be a good laugh. He'd have some stories about Celtic, that'd be interesting. But that's it, yeah, if I'm choosing one, it's Stewart Dallas. He's my best friend in the team.